Are you trying to get to your ideal weight? And do you have a question about actually what that is? A lot of women don't have a question about what their ideal weight is, but they do have some number in their head and they're reaching for it. I'll tell you what I've learned about 36 years of working with women who are reaching for that ideal weight. I'm Deborah Atkinson, and you're listening to Flipping 50, where I address your top struggles and concerns, and I share what to eat, how to move, and how to change your mindset so you can have the energy and the vitality you want, need, and deserve in this second and better half. And today I'm tackling, how do I know my ideal weight? If you've had that question, or better yet, if you have no question, you think with absolute certainty you know what your ideal weight is, and you're trying to get there but can't, this is for you. I will challenge that you don't have or really don't know your ideal weight. What you may have is a number in your head based on a body composition you didn't know when you were even at that weight. What we have is an ideal body composition. We have an ideal waist to hip ratio. We have a waist circumference that is healthy or on the side that lends itself to greater health issues. So weight, however, alone, that's not an easy or a desirable goal. So for most women, the number on the scale won't give you the toned, energetic body that you want to do all the things that you love to do. Not that weight on the scale, the number that you think you want to see. It will leave you a slave to the scale and a lot of times rob you of energy and make you ignorant of the things that really matter. Just as my friend JJ Virgin will say, it's not the calories you eat, it's what those calories do to your hormones. I say it's not the calories you burn, it's what those calories do to your hormones. So when you're looking at it from a what you eat standpoint, as well as from a how do I exercise and burn the weight or the fat or the calories off standpoint, it comes back to what your hormones do because they determine whether your body will burn or store those calories. You're much better off tracking your body composition. So let's talk about it. I'm going to give you 3 different types of measures that really do matter, and we're going to break them down. So we'll talk about some in addition to that maybe don't matter quite so much, but that you're given and you're hearing quite often. So body composition, to get a better idea of what you're made of, whether it's lean muscle, fat, or adipose tissue, in other words, and bone. So those are the 3 things. Your total weight on the scale reflects your lean muscle, your fat, and your adipose tissue and bone. So you want to track your body composition. Simply, that's your percent body fat. But more sophisticated measures allow you to understand even more about your left and your right limbs compared to each other, and your trunk or your visceral fat, standing for that mid-trunk region. So that can be the pinch and inch, but what's more important and heart healthy important is the visceral fat, meaning the total circumference. So you can be taut and have that really very thick belly and body, or you can have a couple of inches where you can literally see it, feel it, the muffin top. One is more risky to your heart than the other. Neither one is desirable, and I get that. For the basics, when you want to track body composition, you can do it at home. Never buy a bathroom scale, again, that doesn't measure body fat as well as weight. And I have 2 that I recommend frequently. I'll link to where to find those. You can find them in almost any store. In any discount store, you can find them in any Bath and Body. You can, of course, find them online. Many women get concerned about whether it's right or not, whether that body composition is accurate. Is that percent body fat right? Here's the thing. There are a lot of reasons it can be off. If a scale is off dramatically, that's a problem. But if a scale is just simply not quite calibrated perfectly, it's not the problem as long as you weigh pre and post on that same scale. What we really want to track is change. So, is it going in the right direction? That's really the question. So you don't want to measure apples and compare them to oranges, meaning you wouldn't want to measure your percent body fat at home and then go into your doctor's appointment annually and look at your body weight there and compare one to the other, because it could either make you joyous for the wrong reason or depressed for the wrong reason, because that's the kind of power and control we give to the scale anyway. You've got to only be comparing your appointment last year at the doctor weighing on that scale to your appointment this year at the doctor weighing on that scale, and your daily, your weekly, your monthly frequency that you weigh at home on the same exact scale to each other. Likewise, if you go to the gym, don't go to the gym and think, well, I weighed at home and I weighed this, and now I'm weighing here a couple hours later and I weigh this. They're not related, because every scale has its own unique calibration. So don't compare the two of those. Find one, use it, decide, this is the one I'm going to track and follow. So that question, is this right? Could this be right? I get that quite frequently. Knowing with absolute certainty is not really the issue, especially, let's say you didn't know yesterday or last week what that number was. Does it matter that you don't know? Because that alone doesn't change what you're doing or what you did or the status of it. All you have now is a benchmark to track, two of them. You have your weight and you have that percent body fat. And ideally, if it's giving you percent body fat, it either also is telling you your weight in pounds, your fat weight in pounds, and therefore the leftover weight. Your bones are not going to change that much. So the other weight is bone and muscle, but you can calculate then, what's happening to my muscle? Is it increasing, decreasing, or staying the same? Watching that body fat, you'll know, is that increasing, decreasing, or staying the same? Here's the problem. If weight goes down, which we so often think we want, and your body fat stays the same or increases, you, girlfriend, are losing muscle, and we have a problem. Why? Because if you lose muscle, now long term, you set yourself up for weight regain due to a slowed metabolism. Muscle is your metabolically active or active tissue. And here's the thing. If you lose weight, even if you increase your muscle tissue, you still can have a little downshift in your metabolism. So we have to work really hard to increase that muscle to offset a loss of weight. Skinny fat, that skinny fat situation leads to frailty later. So don't choose your skinny jeans over your next 40 years. Can you have both? I don't know that. I don't know that about you, and neither do you. Shoot for health. Aim for health. You can find the flattering fashion trend that suits you along the way. You can't necessarily be skinny and have a glow. Get the glow, and then let's figure out, what is the healthy weight for you to be active, healthy, thrive. So let's talk about measures, other measures of health that are relative to you. So number one is waist circumference. And I'm also going to be talking about body mass index, what that is, how to measure it, waist to hip ratio, the value of that. And I'll come back and circle back to your ideal weight. So waist circumference becomes a health risk if it's 35 inches or greater for women. For men, that number's 40. The risk of type 2 diabetes and of heart disease, and heart disease is an umbrella term, by the way, so cholesterol, blood pressure, stroke risk, all of the things that fall under it increase significantly if you are a woman with a waist circumference of 35 or greater. If you're a midlife woman who's gaining weight around the belly because of the drop in estrogen, it's not desirable and irritating to lose that hourglass shape. You've got a serious health motivator there. So next, let's move to body mass index. BMI, as it's called. So this is the one still used by doctors, but it does not tell the whole story. And often women will report to me, they'll record BMI and not realize they have no idea BMI is not body fat. Body fat percent is important and gives us an immediate, okay, at a glance, we have a problem or we don't. So body fat, coming back to that, to backtrack for a moment, 30 or more percent body fat is obese. Now, you and I don't want to be in that category. We certainly don't want to be in morbidly obese. And that the words themselves don't resonate very well rolling off my tongue. And I've never loved saying that, but there's truth in them that health risk goes up considerably. There are secondary incidents and situations and health issues that come along with obesity. And they tend to be these: type 2 diabetes, heart disease risk, stroke risk. And you want to look very closely at what those are. So healthy ranges for body composition for a woman often will be asked of me, what's a healthy body composition for a woman who's in her 50s? Well, really, when I worked with college students between 18 and 22 on average, now there were older students too, but the healthy ranges is between 18 and 28 for anyone. I don't care how old you are. Should you be fatter because you're older? Therefore, it's okay for you to be more at risk for disease? In my book, no. You should work a little harder. You should make sure that you know by now what is your optimal diet. What should we be doing? How can we enjoy our food, find pleasure from it, and have the energy and vitality and not be constantly thinking about what you can and you cannot have? That's freedom, and that's really health. So then, now that you know body fat, when you come back to body mass index, don't confuse the two numbers, because a BMI, healthy BMI ranges tend to be between about 18 and 24.9. So once you reach 25, it's high. The classifications give you a rating or a range of being underweight, normal weight, overweight, or obese. And again, there's a lot to be desired here. This simple weight to height ratio is all that it is. Therefore, if you are shorter in stature and or you're really tall, you're not really in this mid-range where it may fit and give you a little bit of information. But also if you're very athletic, which is going to mean you are much more muscular. Muscle weighs more, muscle is more dense than fat. So your weight will be higher compared to someone who's not very active and in fact is inactive. And your BMI, because of it, could be worse. So a BMI for an athlete or someone athletic or shorter in stature could overestimate your percent body fat. But however, if you are an older adult who's lost lean muscle mass, it could underestimate your BMI and tell you falsely you're in a good BMI where actually you're not. You have more fat than you have muscle, and you're on your way to becoming frail. So body mass index has a lot of faults to it. It is still used by doctors. Therefore, I'm informing you about this just so that you know, take whatever that is given in your doctor appointment with a grain of salt. So be sure that you're taking into account who you are. How old are you? What's your activity status? And how tall are you? Because those things matter. I'll link to a BMI calculator because, for curiosity's sake, if you're tracking your weight, your body fat composition, and your waist circumference and your BMI, the more numbers you have, the more relative you may see that if you're good in this one, you're good in this one. Waist circumference, body composition are good. Body mass index is not good. It should fall off a little bit on your importance scale. Next up, I want to talk waist to hip ratio. So, a healthy waist to hip ratio, according to the World Health Organization, is 0.85 or less for a woman. However, I prefer to see women at 0.80 or less, which is much low risk. So, the World Health Organization, or WHO, actually thinks that it's okay for you to be at moderate risk. I don't think so, especially women who are in their 50s. It gets harder as you get older to maintain that, or it has historically. We hopefully will be changing that because we're changing our thoughts about what do we believe and what do we expect as we age. But we need to put that into proof before we have that to share with the world. But all the way around, know your numbers. Here's how to measure and determine your waist to hip ratio. It's easily taken by measuring the smallest area of your waist. So do this in front of a mirror, and ideally do it with no clothes on. You want to measure the smallest area in your waist and the largest area around your hips. And then you're going to take that waist number divided by your hip circumference to find your ratio. And remember, it's 0.80 or less if you're going by me. If you're okay being at moderate risk, you're going to go 0.85 or less for women. So if you're looking at doing those, here's the problem. Waist to hip ratio leaves a lot of room for error due to the fact you're measuring 2 times with room not to be exact in each spot. So it's easy not to be exactly parallel to the floor all the way around, or to be holding the tension not exactly the same at both measures, or when you pre and you post test. So you could do it 5 minutes later, start over, do it again, and get slightly different numbers. So just be cautious, take it with a grain of salt, know what it is. So if you're chasing your ideal weight, the bottom line is no woman I've ever worked with in 36 years who's chased an ideal weight, reached her ideal weight, or has been doing it happy once she reached it. It's been miserable, right? So counting calories, counting points, and being a slave to the scale. What you can and you cannot have, that's what life revolves around when you're chasing your ideal weight. And unfortunately, when you reach it, it doesn't get better. Historically, in the National Weight Register, whatever it takes for someone to lose significant amounts of weight, it takes more than that to maintain the weight loss. Back to what I said earlier. When you lose weight, even if you lose fat weight, reducing your weight reduces your metabolism. And so you've got to maintain your activity level. Now, not to the point of exhaustion, because if you throw your hormones off, if you can't find other ways of relaxing, calming your brain down other than movement, you probably need to find a little bit better life balance. So you've got a balance of rest. You have more than 2 speeds, which you're on or off, and you're working on ways to relax and release and reduce those cortisol levels in other ways. So in my opinion, chasing your ideal weight and then reaching that ideal weight, but being miserable while you're at it, is no way to live. So the problem isn't the weight or reaching your ideal weight. It's why you want and you need to reach an ideal weight and what you think is going to happen once you do. I've got additional resources on this topic. For our Flipping 50 virtual members, we have expert interviews around emotional eating and the placebo effect, both, which could be helpful on this topic, and an entire mini course on weight loss and the difference between weight loss at any age and the weight loss for women over 50 and in menopause. And I'll link to those for our members. And for the rest of you, if you're even thinking about it, you're on the fence, you've heard about it, or this is the first time, now's the time to dive in. We're open. If you're listening as I post this in July 15th, and we close the gates today. So July 15th is the very last day. We open twice a year, and this is one of them. So otherwise, if you come to this, you're listening to it later, you can get on the notifications list and learn more about the Flipping 50 virtual online membership. Right now, we all need healthy at-home options, and potentially we will for quite some time. So if you haven't found exercise that is meant for women in menopause, and whether that's peri or post-menopause, this is your place. We do nothing but use science-based, proven, data-driven exercise based on female subjects who were in perimenopause or postmenopause. You'll be surrounded by women just like you. What are you waiting for? You can find show notes today at flipping50.com/ideal weight. And let's start flipping 50 today.